Israel Adesanya takes on Robert Whittaker in a rematch at UFC 271 on February 12th, and I'm going to give my prediction and breakdown for this fight and my betting recommendations. So, we know that Israel Adesanya knocked out Robert Whittaker in their first fight back in 2019, and I think we're going to see a really different fight. Robert Whittaker basically came in there and threw the kitchen sink at Israel Adesanya. Basically showed him all of his striking tools in the first 4 minutes and got knocked out with relative ease against a counter striker with incredible kickboxing credentials like Israel Adesanya. I think we're going to see a completely different fight this time. Going into that first fight, Robert Whittaker felt like he didn't get enough respect as a defending champion. He had just coming off of a war with Yoel Romero and saw this guy Israel Adesanya getting all this credit. This newcomer got an interim belt. And, I think he had a massive chip on his shoulder and he wanted to prove a point that, I'm the top dog. Why is this guy getting all this respect? I think he came into that fight with a lot of emotion. Israel Adesanya capitalized, fought like he was the veteran, fought like he was the returning champion, and kind of just picked apart Robert Whittaker. But I think since then, Robert Whittaker has basically destroyed 3 of the top middleweights in the world. He easily beat Kelvin Gastelum in his last fight, which is about 7-8 months ago. Basically used Jan Blachowicz' tactics that Jan used against Israel Adesanya in their fight at light heavyweight, and went out there and did the exact same thing against Kelvin Gastelum. Took him down at will, outstruck him on the feet, stayed patient, didn't really get into too much trouble, let the fight kind of come to him, and was able to strike going backwards. Landed a lot of his famous combos, that jab, fake right to the shoulder, the high kick, Robert Whittaker's most dangerous combination. Absolutely rolled over Kelvin Gastelum. The fight before that, he took on Jared Cannonier and beat him pretty handily in a 3-round war. I'd say he won 3 of those rounds. It was competitive, but in the 3rd round, he almost finished Jared Cannonier, caught him with that combination, the jab, high kick combo, almost put him away. And before that, he had a chess match with Darren Till and really has shown a lot of maturity and composure in the cage since his loss to Israel Adesanya. He's made plenty of improvements. His mentality has improved. The only issue is, I just don't think he's durable enough to really go toe-to-toe on the feet with Israel Adesanya. And I think Israel Adesanya has good enough takedown defense to last an entire fight with Robert Whittaker without really getting dominated on the ground. Now, Israel Adesanya, great takedown defense because he's tall, he's hard to take down. He's worked quite a lot over his MMA career on his takedown defense. And the thing is, if you're standing with him and you're a guy like Robert Whittaker who also has incredible striking, you're eventually going to get outstruck unless you have similar physical attributes. Israel Adesanya basically has a reach advantage over every single middleweight in the division. The only guy that could really give him problems on the feet was Yoel Romero, who presents a much different challenge than Robert Whittaker, who can just knock you out with one punch, who's extremely explosive and incredibly durable. And then the other guy was Jan Blachowicz, who had very similar physical attributes to Adesanya, basically the same height, basically the same reach, weighed more than him. He was able to outstrike Israel Adesanya. Robert Whittaker, on the other hand, is by no means a small middleweight, but he just doesn't have the same physical attributes. He has a 73-inch reach. Israel Adesanya has an 80-inch reach advantage. He has an 80-inch reach, 7-inch reach advantage. He's just really hard to get in on. And I think the path to victory for Israel Adesanya in this fight is going to be a lot easier. Number one, Robert Whittaker is not as durable as Marvin Vettori, or he's not as durable as a Yoel Romero. He can get put away. He was knocked out by Adesanya, knocked out by Stephen Thompson, dropped multiple times, and almost finished by Yoel Romero. Also, Adesanya can just stay at range and spam low kicks. Adesanya has the ability to fight at range, not get hit, and just spam low kicks. All he has to really worry about is getting taken down. Robert Whittaker, in order for him to win, has to be perfect. He has to pick his shots. He has to let the fight come to him, not do too much. I mean, we saw Yoel Romero outstrike Israel Adesanya in the first few rounds of their fight. In the first round, Yoel Romero landed 4 significant strikes. That was enough to double Adesanya. He just let the fight come to him. If Robert Whittaker can do that but remain a little bit more active, he would still also have to implement takedowns in the center of the cage, because it's almost impossible to take Israel Adesanya down at the cage. He has to shoot them at the right time, and don't get me wrong, Whittaker has incredible wrestling. I mean, he almost went to the Olympics, he went to the Commonwealth Games, and on the level of technicality, he's probably the best MMA wrestler that Israel Adesanya's ever fought. Yoel Romero is a silver medalist in freestyle wrestling, but that's different than MMA wrestling. Whittaker is a better technical wrestler than Jan Blachowicz. Even though Jan Blachowicz was able to take down Adesanya, I think that was mainly due to his physical attributes and shooting at the right time. So the path to victory for Whittaker is hard. He has to be perfect. I think that Whittaker, if he wins, is going to have to win via decision. He's going to have to be patient on the feet. He's going to have to mix in the wrestling. And he's going to have to take Adesanya down in the middle of the cage and land strikes on the ground. He has great ground game, but I don't see him getting a finish over Israel Adesanya. Israel Adesanya, I think, likely, I think he'll win via decision, 48-47, 3 rounds to 2. But if anyone does get a finish in this fight, I would say it's going to be Adesanya. I think if there is a finish, it's going to be a knockout in the 4th round by Adesanya. I think that Whittaker will do well for the first few rounds. I think he'll land a few takedowns, but towards the end of the fight, I think Adesanya is basically going to start to really do well defending the takedowns. I think he's going to pick up his volume. I think Whittaker's leg is going to get chewed up, and honestly, I think that's where the difference is going to be made on the feet. Although Whittaker is going to make things a lot more even on the feet, he's going to be a lot more careful. Adesanya is really going to chew up the leg with those low leg kicks on Whittaker, who's not very good at checking leg kicks. I mean, we saw in the Cannonier fight, his leg was destroyed. His leg was basically almost given out in that fight. And Adesanya may not kick as hard as Cannonier, but he does kick with more efficiency, with more volume. And overall, I think that the movement to Whittaker won't be as good as the fight goes on. I think he's going to get a little bit frustrated that he's not able to take Adesanya down like he may be in the beginning of the rounds. I just think that Adesanya is going to catch him at some point, hurt him, and either finish him in the 4th round or make it so Whittaker is a little more vulnerable towards the 5th round and kind of can just cruise to a victory. So Adesanya, 48-47, leg kicking at range, possibly finishing Whittaker, because Whittaker can be finished. He's been finished many times. I think he's going to destroy Whittaker's leg. And yeah, I would say if these guys fight 10 times, Adesanya wins 7 out of those 10 times. Whittaker's phenomenal. These are really like the 2 top kings of the middleweight division. It's kind of like Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski. You know, 2 guys that are just levels above the rest, but one of them, Alexander Volkanovski at featherweight, and at middleweight, Israel Adesanya, just happened to be that much better than the other guy. It's unfortunate. Whittaker, you know, if Adesanya didn't exist, would be the middleweight GOAT. But, you know, I think that Adesanya is going to get another victory, and, you know, I won't be surprised if Whittaker wins, but he's got to do a lot, man. He's got to implement all his tools. He's got to be patient. He's got to time his takedowns perfectly. If that doesn't happen, Adesanya is just going to cruise to a victory, maybe a late finish. So if I was betting on this fight, I would bet with Adesanya. He's too long. He's got a reach advantage. He's going to put that jab in Whittaker's face, and he's going to leg kick him, and Whittaker is going to do all right. He's going to land a few takedowns. I think towards the end of the fight, he's going to have trouble checking the leg kicks, and eventually his movement's going to be prohibited, and it'll be harder for him to score those takedowns. So Adesanya will win this fight. And yeah, follow me on Instagram, LucasJT19, and follow my other gym YouTube channel, Lucas T Fitness. And yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you.